With me on stage, William Millard, you are Regional Finance Lead at Workday. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Let me see here. You're British,
Yep.
but you live in Copenhagen. You have an MBA, but you are originally a mining engineer. You don't work with mines, and you have a sales title, but you do not talk about sales. I wonder, who is William Millard?
Yeah, well, it's lovely to be here today. I've been living for 25 years in this space between finance and technology and finance consulting and working with CFOs. So I've implemented shared service centers. I have deployed as a project manager ERP systems. I've sold ERP systems. I've worked as a consultant with CFOs on ERP strategy. So I've always been in and around that space, but never, not digging holes in the ground for a very long time at least.
And Copenhagen, would you say, is better than Stockholm?
I can't answer that question in front of this room full of people. I love both cities. I think, I love them both. I'm not going to commit one way or the other.
Good answer, good answer. I'm also curious to know, if you could travel back in time to witness one moment in the financial history, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I think maybe it seems like an odd choice because it's not so long ago, but I'm really fascinated by the 2008 finance crisis and what really caused that, the number of small decisions and small acts of oversight and what a huge impact that had over time and the sort of social after effects that have followed on for that, whether it be the rise of populism and a lot of other things. So I think it's a fascinating area to study. And what's the film, The Big Short? I think I've seen it 10 times. I'm kind of obsessed with that.
And nice to not travel all the way back to a very long time ago, just to stay in 2008.
And I can even remember some things that happened in 2008. I had a son born in 2008.
Oh, wow. You see, that would be a great thing to experience again, of course.
Yeah.
But looking into the economic uncertainty and economic disruption, sorry about that, and geopolitical tensions, how do you see the role of finance evolving in the last 5 to 10 years or so?
Yeah, I think quite a few people have mentioned it today. It's been this move from being a record keeper to adding value to the organization that you're a part of. And many of us have aspired over the last 10, 15, 20 years even to be business partners, but it's taking that step from being a record keeper, the controller of the facts, to being a business partner, a value creator, and maybe even looking further into the future than that as time goes by.
But how can then finance move from being a scorekeeper to a value creator in this context?
So recently, the AICPA and the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants in the UK have been working together with a group of Fortune 500 companies and Global 1000 companies to put together a framework to measure how the maturity level of finance organizations. So we have this thing called FAME, which is the Finance Assessment Model for Effectiveness. And they've developed a 5-stage model which you can use to evaluate your maturity. So we start with the scorekeeper. As we just said, these are the ones who are really keeping the books and delivering the management reporting once a month. And then moving on through being an advisor, a business partner, and then a value creator and a futurist. And as you move through these steps, you're getting closer and closer to the business, adding more and more value to the insights that you give. But of course, you need to have a lot more data and a lot more understanding of how the business works. And what I think is very interesting is that in the last couple of years, Workday's been monitoring where CFOs see themselves on this scale. And it won't be a big surprise to see that a lot of CFOs rank themselves as being a business partner. So I think we have about 43% would call themselves a business partner. But I think what's very interesting is if you get into the futurist category at the very top, and these are CFOs who are setting the strategy, are driving innovation and really setting the scene for what their organizations are doing. There are only 4% of CFOs who see themselves in that category. Whereas the scorekeeper category at the bottom, which is where I started my career getting management reports once a month from the finance department sent to the business who may or may not understand what they've got in front of them. There's still 17% of CFOs see themselves in that category. And there's a huge room for improvement and a huge room for adding value to a lot of organizations by doing that.
To uncover insights, trend, provide recommendation with AI, you need a large volume of financial data. What is a good strategy, would you say, with AI and ML?
Yeah, I mean, data is really the lifeblood of artificial intelligence. Without big volumes of data, we can't really use it for anything. So what we need to do as organizations is start to look outside of the finance transactions that we all spend our time digging through, or at least always have done. So what's the data that we can pull into our finance platform, or what can we pull into our platform to enrich the finance data that we've got and add value to the business and give some insights that we haven't had before? So it could be bringing in your HR data. It could be bringing, from Workday, of course, I'm going to mention HR, but it could be HR data. It could be your external operational data. So if you're an insurance company, it's bringing in your claims. It could be bringing in data about the weather, for example. If you're a supermarket, you can see, okay, what is an easy example? Sale of ice cream when the weather's good. But then you can look at the weather forecast and use that for predictions going into the future. And once you brought that data into your platform, so you're matching up your finance transactions together with your operational transactions, you can really start to give some insights which the people in the business just simply can't do because they've only got one part of the equation. And then an extra interesting thing in technologically speaking is that if you're on a born in the cloud platform where you're not able to customize anything that you're doing, you find that you have all of your customers are using the same data model, so the structure of the data is the same for everybody. So we've got 65 million users logging into Workday every day and generating around 1 trillion transactions a year. Now that gives us a fantastic data foundation to be able to say, what does good look like? What is the best in class doing? And give us some insights which you won't have if you're just living in an on-premise world with your own set of data. So it's about bringing data in from outside. It's about using the data that you got internally, combining that all together, and using artificial intelligence to give you some insights that you wouldn't get with spreadsheets and trying to manually handle all this information.
1 trillion transactions.
1 trillion transactions, yeah.
Wow, that's heaps.
It's absolutely heaps. And it's interesting to see what you can do with that because, of course, we're not looking at each individual organization's transactions. It's all anonymized. But when you start to get patterns emerging through different users of the same data structure, it gives you some insights that you can't get from elsewhere.
But could you also share a more specific example on how AI and ML technologies can be applied within the finance department to automate repetitive tasks
Sure.
in the processes, allowing finance professionals to focus on higher value activities?
Yeah. So I think when I was thinking about what we should talk about today, one of the things I discussed with one of my colleagues is this spiritual journey towards a zero-day close. And how do we get to the point where we don't have to spend the first half, third, quarter, eighth, whatever of the month frantically trying to get our books closed? So some of the things that we're able to do is to spread our month's closing activities during the previous month. So whether that's anomaly detection, if you've got invoices from a legal company which are being posted on a marketing account or vice versa, you can capture those during the month and you don't need to wait till the end of the month to find all of those mistakes. And then we can also automate matching processes. We can automate bank reconciliations. There are lots of things that we can automate. And I was just standing at the back listening to the previous speaker talking about mandating electronic invoicing formats. Now, if you're talking to a US-based company, they get very excited about being able to match invoices and payments. In the Nordics, we've been doing that kind of by default for 10 years without using artificial intelligence. But when you start to look at global organizations where you don't have electronic invoicing formats which are mandated by the country, it gets a lot more difficult to do that. So just being able to match everything and make everything happen in an automated way makes a big difference. Identifying risks and questionable postings and raising those to be checked by controllers during the month makes a difference. And then using the big data volumes that we've got, being able to do forecasting, so looking at a bigger spread of KPIs than we would do today to say, in previous months that have looked like this, what has the end result been? And in previous quarters that have looked like this, what has the end result been? So we're able to drive a lot more insights just because of the volume of data that we've got and the patterns that we can see there.
Mm. Can we also talk about the new trend in AI and ML generative AI and how it will modify the way we use finance?
Yeah, I think we're kind of probably at the peak of the hype cycle around generative AI. It's going to be the solution to everything. We're all going to be made unemployed by it within the next couple of years, or maybe in 12 months' time we look at it and think, there was perhaps a lot of fuss about that. And I talked to somebody earlier about the Internet of Things hype cycle that we had a couple of years ago. And in truth, it hasn't changed our jobs that much. But if you look at what the finance department are doing where they can use generative AI, is where you've got a sort of written prose-based interaction with your customers, with your suppliers. So things like matching, so reading a contract and matching your contract that you have with a supplier with a standard contract that you've got on the system, and identifying differences between those contracts and things that need to be specifically handled. So it's very, very good at reading documents and pulling out the essential points from documents. And then if you talk about dunning or collection letters, which letters do we need to send to who? In which country? In what language? How sharp do they need to be? Is it a friendly reminder or is it a threat of legal action? That's something that we can easily manage without having to manually maintain a lot of different templates as we move into new countries. So it's the agility and the ability to do these sorts of things much more quickly. And then the final one, which I think is getting to a little bit more into the Star Trek realm, is about conversational planning. So asking your planning system, what's going to happen if the interest rate goes up by 1% next year? What's going to happen if inflation falls by 1% next year? Or even what's going to happen if we have a hot summer or a cold summer, back to our ice cream example. It's about being able to ask questions of your planning and budgeting systems without necessarily having to sit spending time typing equations in and trying to find the right way of managing that.
Seems to be a great future ahead if you can do all of that then.
Let's hope so, yeah. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what AI does for the finance organization in the coming years, and I'm sure there'll be some things which get automated, and a combination of statutory requirements around invoicing that we've just been hearing about, and then building automation into our products and then using artificial intelligence to find the anomalies and handle the anomalies is going to make a big difference. But it's also going to drive different requirements of the finance organization. So we've talked about moving from being kind of a bookkeeper function where we have a lot of people sitting in Excel or in their ERP system doing manual transactions and manually handling things, moving away from that to being people who can ask the right questions. We've got a lot of data, we've got a lot of tools to handle data, but if you think about the skills that are required to get the best out of generative AI, it's not about understanding AI better, it's about who asks the best question to get the best answer from the AI. And we spend a lot of time, ask a question, that wasn't what I wanted, ask another question, I reformulate it. But being able to ask the right questions to get the insights from the data that you have, I think is going to be a really key skill going into the future.
How do you learn that skill, to ask the right questions?
Yeah, this is something which we're going to have to learn to do. It's an infant technology, so I think there's going to be some trial and error. Hopefully it's going to be part of our education system as we move along. If I look at what my kids learn to do compared with what I learned to do at school, it's very different. But there's going to be some trial and error and understanding the data that you're working with. At Workday, our approach to using artificial intelligence is to be as transparent as possible. So we will come up with suggestions based on our AI and ML, but we will always be able to explain to you what it was that we built to give you that answer. So we're trying very hard to avoid having the hallucinations which we see in ChatGPT in the data that we are pulling out of in the answers that you're getting in questions from the data that's in Workday. So we're trying very hard to keep the transparency there so that you trust the information you get. You ask a question, you trust the answer. If you try asking ChatGPT to do some complicated mathematics for you, it will confidently give you an answer, which is wrong. And it will confidently explain to you how it got you the wrong answer. That's not where we need to be as people are dealing numbers and dealing facts. So we need to know that what we're doing gives us the answer that we're looking for.
And I'll give you the opportunity to share any last thoughts before I let you go.
Yeah, I think when I talked about the moving from being the kind of bookkeeping function to being the futurist, if you look at the red line that goes through that, it's about getting close to the business. It's about having access to the data and being able to combine the data in a way which gives you insights that the business alone won't have, that finance data alone won't give you, but really being able to bring that together and make yourself much more of a value add to your colleagues out in the business and really push the finance function to the forefront of what's going to be delivered in the future.
Thank you so much for that, William. And I would love to stay and chat more with you, but I can't. So I will say a big thank you so much for being here today and good luck in the future as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.